Good evening. You are listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. Alongside me tonight, I have from the Great Midwest, not from the Far East, which we're going to go to tonight, but from the Great Midwest, like I said, RDV. And we're going to be talking about the back to basics thing that we like to talk about here on Extreme Movie Show, particularly on Tuesday nights. And that's something action, which usually means a canon film from the 80s or martial arts. And so that's where we're going with Chan's directorial debut, A Fearless Hyena from 79, 80-ish or whatever. And I got to say, RDB,
Yeah.
growing up as a kid here in Central Florida, just west of Orlando, Florida, from the Pine Hills Palace, we used to have a show that we would get occasionally on the black and white television set with our bunny ears, as they were called, that would leak out from Tampa Bay. And it was called WTOG, as far as the eye could see, where Dr. Paul Bearer used to do movies. But we would also have a channel called USA that had the Kung Fu Theater on it. And we would get two martial arts films Saturday morning, and then we would have TBS wrestling, and it was a grand old time. That being said, this is exactly the kind of movies a kid you remember growing up going, oh, what is this? I don't know what it is, but it's cool and I like it. And I've always said here that Jackie Chan, I don't like the comedy aspects of what he does. It's cute, and I don't like cute with martial arts. I understand it's popular and it's neat. That being said, this movie's got a lot going for it, and I do give Jackie Chan a lot of credit for not only directing it, but choreography, the fight scenes, all that too. You get a lot of stuff in here, and I got to be honest with you, watching this movie, I don't recall saying, yeah, I know that I've seen it. But I look at it and go, it feels very familiar. I liked it a lot. And on
Yep.
Tubi is where I watched it. It's a great color print, and I enjoyed a lot of things about it. We're going to jump into that here in just a moment. But before that, I want to ask you, was this a first watch for you?
Definitely a first watch for me. I've watched a lot of Jackie Chan's films, so when I can find one I haven't seen, I get excited because I'm like, oh man, this is even earlier stuff. This is I watched it in their normal or language. I didn't watch with English subtitles, so I watched it.
Hmm.
Um, I forgot how they is it Chinese they're speaking in there. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to tell because Hong Kong, there's different languages.
I had
So
the English dubbed version, and
oh
so
I
there's a couple of them out there like that. So it doesn't sound like Jackie Chan either. It sounds pretty bad, but that
yeah.
adds to the comedy element to it.
Yeah, for me, so you probably watched the Revenge of the Dragon, the USA title
Oh
on
yeah.
Tubi. Yeah, I watched the original cut, so it was like I watched these subtitles, but it was kind of listening to everything they do, Jackie Chan's normal voice,
Hmm.
and yeah, there's a lot of comedy in this. We get the classic old man master villain in this, and the guy, I don't think he's as old as he think he's supposed to be, but you see he
It's a wig,
has
bro.
it's a wig, bro. I know, right? The eyebrows, everything. I was like, this is what I like, because that's part of the humor in some of this. Um, we even got cross dressing Jackie Chan in this one of the things he's dressing up as a girl, right? Because they said one of the fighters he's going against this big dude. Well, let's talk about the story. The story is basically he is his grandfather turns out it basically was being pursued by this evil uh, uh, villain. Or I forget what his name is, but he wanted to basically wipe out his father, his grandfather, played by James Tian,
Hmm.
Ching Peng Pei, Lung's grandfather, and basically wanted to get rid of his clan. So when Jackie Chan, who's basically decides to basically he's kind of a goof, he doesn't do his daily
He's an
chores. So
entitled, spoiled little brat
yeah, he
who
is.
doesn't
So,
understand the value of the secret training of some special martial
and
arts that
and
only his grandfather, knows because he's the last in the line.
yeah, and he's been taught a lot of it too. But he knows some stuff, so he goes to work for this other guy, and they put up, he basically it's like Jackie Chan, I'll fight for money, and you guys can make a profit off of here at school. And Jackie Chan always poses, as he has, he's the master, of the actual dojo they're in.
Right.
He always poses as the lowly guy, so you get to see Jackie Chan, pretending to be the janitor and stuff, and then fighting against the guy. And of course, one of the guys he fights again is this big, tall brick house guy, and Jackie Chan has to go against him. They realize they find out the guy's weaknesses. The guy's weakness is that he likes pretty girls, so Jackie Chan dresses up as a girl
Yep.
and fights against him. And there's a little comedy in some of this, and of course Jackie Chan wins. Now the problem with this is that he decided to use his grandfather's last name, and put it on top of the dojo. This draws attention to the people who are looking for his grandfather, they've been pursuing him for the past 10 years.
Yep.
And oh my gosh, it just comes into basically where his grandfather is fortunately gets found, gets killed. Jackie Chan wants revenge, but he's not able to do it because he does not. He's too much rage, but he doesn't have the training. He's not ready yet. A guy basically knew his grandfather, comes in and teaches him the unicorn, the lucky unicorn. At first called the lucky unicorn, or what it was, and teaches him how to do that stuff. And yeah, and so ultimately we get the Jackie Chan to the end, where the shirt gets ripped off, he's getting beat up, and then he starts doing all the other stuff. Now we've seen this kind of acting, like fighting with him, well, when we watched the Drunken Master.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's
this is the emotional really version instead of the drunkard version.
Yes, and wow, I said it's still a good movie though. We've seen this before, but I said I just love Jackie Chan's acting in this. This is his directorial debut, and he just plays right into the role. I mean,
yeah, I want to talk about just as far as a film goes, because we don't consider ourselves necessarily experts on the different types of martial arts that are out there as far as the forms and the katas, and we know it's choreographed and all that too. But one of the things that you and I have always talked about really liking, and going back to some of the basics, is practical effects. We understand immediately when you're watching this film, something's going on because there's a chase outside. And this is beautiful. As dense as a city as Hong Kong is and other areas around that time, and of course this is before Hong Kong ceded back to Chinese control. You got the trees in the background, the grass, and there's these two people that split up because some bad dudes are chasing them, and then one guy gets caught, or he seems to get away, but he gets caught by the evil warlord. And the evil lord's like all the other guys. He's tall and skinny, but he's got the really long flowing white beard, and he's got the cocaine nails. But here's the thing that I love, that I just, it really pops me, and then I appreciate this with martial arts, is they'll go ahead and they'll, besides hooking you early on here with the battle where one of the two guys dies, right, is that you get to see what this bad guy can do. So we're establishing how strong of an evil opponent he's going to be.
Dude,
but his technique, I'm partial to certain techniques. Like I love claws, and I love the back of the wrist, the really delicate look, like a backhand. But I also really, really love, not necessarily strikes, but this guy was using like the 2-finger techniques on each hands, where he's fighting the guy, and
blades
boom,
in the back.
boom, 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 strike, and then it would bruise the guy. And then finally he guts the guy basically with his fingers, like in the throat and the chest. I'm like, it's cheesy effects with the blood coming out of the mouth and all that.
Yeah.
But the fighting and all that and the timing of it is great, because there's not a lot of cut shots. You know what's going on. And the one thing that I've said, except for the movie Blade, a lot of action sequences, to me, especially American ones, do not have a rhythm to it. So even while John Wick is highly stylized and the scenes are like one continuous take, which is really, really cool, it just, you don't feel it building up to a finale, and then reset. Okay, let's do this. But then later on, like you said before, when Jackie's character doesn't realize what he's doing, eventually when we get the training montage to see how well he learns, we see like a little fight sequence where he's trying to train him. And when this is not showing off like you're arrogant, but this is the hardcore discipline where the student must show the master when the master calls things out to do it. So it's like, oh, broom technique, this technique, that technique, and then you see Jackie trying to do it all while the master's beating him up. You're like, this is cool, this is fun, this is what it's supposed to be. And so even though there's some of the comedy stuff you talked about, at the end when his grandfather dies, it kind of gets serious, because he's watching it, and the one guy that's remaining left over is basically covering his mouth while he sees it happens. He trains him a little bit. They have the chopstick little training thing, which is really cool looking. And then they have the big fight at the end, and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm talking about. It's a simple story, the guy's told effectively.
Yeah, the guy he takes my rigorous training is the guy he's called the Unicorn. The Unicorn, Chan Wei Lo, and this is a guy who's basically he's like, he held him back, and this guy only has a cane. He's like, why didn't you go? You said clearly my grandfather's friend, but you just stood there. You let him die. He's like, I'm an old man. What am I gonna do? I'm barely surviving as it is. And he says, like, you going to run after him? You died too. What does it accomplish? Who's gonna bury your grandfather? He's just gonna rot. And he just talks sense into Jackie Chan, and he trains him and all that stuff. You get to see the stuff and some cool stuff. Jackie Chan's doing basically sit-ups from what do you call it? Is it a sit-up, I guess? Because he's laying up. He's his feet are tied to the tree.
It's the training montage
Yeah,
because we get a
yeah.
couple of them,
It's kind
but
of like
that was a really good physical prop to show Jackie's prowess. Now, Asian people as a populace for the most part are not a physically imposing culture, generally speaking. Jackie Chan's legitimate, maybe a 5'9" at peak, maybe 5'10" with lifts. But here we see him, and he's doing where he's hanging by his feet, and he's pushing himself out and curling in and hitting it, and
hitting his
it's
head.
reminiscent of
Oh,
what we would get like with Bloodsport or Kickboxer or something,
I
right?
was gonna say yeah. Was it Kickboxer the one he's doing the real training with the old man? I think that was Kickboxer, yeah. And it is just intense training. And it's all him physically doing. It's not a stunt double.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it. It's authentic.
Yes, I agree with you 100% on there. And as much as you might lean towards the comedy element with Jackie Chan and enjoying it, and I kind of don't care for that. I've always liked him, and I always appreciated anybody that does it because remember, the evil bad guy is just a guy wearing a really, really goofy ass wig or whatever like that, and he's not much bigger than Jackie. But without him being on point too, it doesn't let Jackie shine. You get the early fight scene that establishes Jackie's character
Yeah.
as kind of knowing different things. Where the three goons, when he wins the gambling match,
Oh
and they
yeah,
chase him and all that, and he kind of
yeah.
beats him up, and it's comedy. I don't care for that stuff. Although it was stupid that the big dude, when he would hit the ground, there'd be like an earthquake.
I know, I
That
was
was so
gonna say
stupid.
that was because yeah, they're the most stupidest people there. But it turns out they work for this other guy. He's also in, and that's what Jackie Chan actually works and gets a job, makes a deal with that guy. I'll fight, but I want the money. And then you see later on the guy is like, "Oh, I'm the master." He's like, "Well, you fight me?" He's like, "I'll be right back." And he's like, "Jackie Chan, come on, get up, fight." He's like, "I'm busy," and like the guy's fanning him. He's on the chair. He's like, "I'll pay you more." He's like, "How about more?" He's like, "Okay, sure." He's just basically holding out for money. But let's talk about some of the fight scenes though.
Go ahead.
Towards the end, there's a three guards, the recruit goons they call them. They're always traveling along with the evil master Yam Tin Fa, and they all have those spears with the swords on the end, the blades. And Jackie Chan goes against all three of them, and they're constantly trying to swinging at him. And he's blocking, grabbing it, and it's just that whole fight scene right there is just like it went on for about good 3 minutes. It felt like to me, and I wasn't bored. It wasn't sped up. It was all that fast because Jackie Chan does not speed up his work.
You bring up a really good point there because obviously, depending on the camera angles, you might tell that they're going at it maybe half speed to 3/4 speed, certainly not full speed. But the point is as choreographed it is, there's certain things that add to it, right? So, like for example, in the early chase, and you get these like in the sword fight you're talking about, the sound effects might be cheap and silly, but I like them.
No,
So like when like the guy's running and jumping, and you get the with his robe and all
yeah,
that's just a cool sound. Or when you get those punch
yeah.
sounds, but then it's different when it's that final strike.
Yeah.
But then like with the sword stuff, you get that kind of sword ringing sound. It's like that's
Ching,
cool
ching.
to me. Yeah, exactly. And there's almost like it's almost like a musical thing, like a timing thing where it's like shing, 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 boom.
Because all three of them are taking swipes at the same time, and he's ducking, moving, grabbing one pull, using it to block the other one, going around, and just and then the guy comes behind him. It's just like it is. They got the rhythm down too, and and this is what I don't like about some of his early stuff. He doesn't have the goof, you want to call it the scenes at the end where the bloopers,
The outtakes.
Oh, I love that stuff because it shows you like he hurts himself. He's like,
Yeah, that became a little bit more popular because in around 80, 81, there's a movie with Burt Reynolds called The Cannonball Run, and a lot of people are on there as an ensemble movie.
yep.
And he was in one of them where you see they give an opportunity to shine in a big fight there too. And that was kind of like his introduction to the American audience, but it still wasn't really till the early 90s with Rumble and the Bronx that people went, oh my God, this guy. And then all of a sudden people seem to rediscover, Asian martial arts for the most part because, American action films took over, right?
So Police Story is the big one where we see him, he swings down from those lights.
Yeah, and that was 86-ish or something like that. And we have covered that here on the Xtreme Movie Show. For sure.
And you see how he just burns his hands at the end. He's like, how his hands are burnt,
Yeah.
And it's just a one take. It wasn't like, multiple takes. It was one take. He had to get it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
He probably had a safety net at the end if he even had it.
Yeah, Jeez. I mean, the people that aren't aware of it, and obviously we're repeating ourselves to most people who are familiar with any of this listening, is that Jackie does pretty much his own stunts. And tries to be as safe as possible, but I mean, you're going to get injured and hurt. But I
Oh,
give him all the credit in the world because, again, he's not the biggest guy, but
no.
obviously he's trained to dance and sing. He was in the, I think, the opera school or whatever they forced
He,
him into, or however you want to
yeah,
call
he
that back in
said.
his time.
Do you remember?
He's legit.
Remember him saying in an interview that he didn't get famous till he was age 40.
Well, I disagree, but his version of famous from what he's describing might
Hollywood
be
famous,
different.
worldwide famous. I'm sure he had over where he was, but I mean, like where we are, like I said, Rumble in the Bronx is when we learned about him in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, I knew of him from that earlier on, and I believe I've seen some of his films. But when you're young, it's hard to go, oh, this is the person that they're going to use in a lot of films. And of course, when Bruce Lee died in the
So
early '70s, there was all these Bruce Lee ripoff type movies, right?
he said he
And then,
hurt his back, man. Just trying to do all that stuff. By the time he was 40, he's like he really realized I'd rather, and now I can finally make it so I can focus on my family. You know, that's what I remember reading about that. But
yeah, it's the thing with Fearless Hyena or whatever version of it you see, because they were given different titles in different countries for releases for whatever reasons. Um, Jackie's always tried cultivating a specific image about himself, where supposedly he is that lovable goofball that just kind of figures out how to get out of stuff. And he's extremely acrobatic and athletic. And I always talk about flippity flop. I don't care about it. But
the
Jackie's
ballet,
always done a very
yeah,
good job of making it work. And I was always a big fan of Jeff Speakman and The Perfect Weapon and that style that we don't normally see. But it's kind of sad that, and I've said this before, that by the mid '80s, when all the action stars started going into a lot of guns and explosions, I don't mind them, and they're entertaining certainly. Like Commando's one of our favorites, but the lack of beating people, each other up, fisticuffs, karate, this kind of stuff, I miss it, and I wish there'd be more of them. And at least here, you understand that, yeah, they're all working together. It's a film and all that. But to your point, where he does a lot of these, where it's not necessarily a lot of cuts and stuff, and then they build towards a little thing, like the fight you're talking about with the three sword guys. The big scene part in that scene is not him getting his, cut a little bit and his shirt coming off. It's, when these guys are fighting, at some point the sword comes over and you see, and they do it in slow motion a little bit of his hair flying off like they cut it, stupid stuff like that, right? But
yeah.
you get him for a long period of time just fighting. I mean, not like 2 or 3
So
seconds and that's it.
here's another thing about this. There's a scene here, the chopstick duel, where he's being trained by the unicorn. He's trying to get this piece of meat, and he keeps blocking him using a little duel.
Yep.
For many people, don't realize that was actually played tribute in Kung Fu Panda.
Yep.
So that's where it came across, and he was also, you guess you had basically emotional kung fu style. It involves vividly displaying the emotions of anger, sorrow, joy, and happiness to find the opponent's weakness, thus fighting while crying or laughing. That's why they call it the fearless hyena, because he'd be crying, do this stuff, and then he'd start laughing and stuff. And it's just like, that's intimidating if you're a serious master and here's this guy just laughing at you and weird. I was like, you think he's a buffoon, but that's what they want you to think. And then then doing this, you basically end up underestimating the person, and then they get So I said I liked it. It's also kind of like it's also, I want to see a feudal Japan, not really, but like
Whatever dynasty was set in, there's obviously certain things to it which most of these
in
movies
the
don't really get into. I think this is the Chen dynasty or the Qin or whatever I read on it earlier. I'm like, okay, is it really relevant to what we're doing? Not really,
no
not unless it's against the
no,
government.
but
You're talking
obviously it's
warlords.
small village, old village, didn't see electricity at all. I don't think there was any, but they had the candles. No. So that also helps, and I love. It also adds to, like, in these movies too. When you see that stuff, I don't like it when it's modern. I do like feudal stuff, but I also like where I don't like it where you tell it's traditional feudal Japan. They got the long hair and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. This is just a standalone thing. This would be like your Street Fighter, kind of like the sense stuff. But so apparently this box office is a huge gross total in Hong Kong of $5 billion, 445, basically would be like their money, but in the United States it would be 1 billion or 1 million,
Yeah, and of course we're talking,
actually,
late
or sorry,
'70s, which is a little different with the inflation and all
or
that. It was definitely a big hit.
sorry, I misspoke. It was 5 million in Hong Kong and 1 million United States. equivalent of that. So South Korea released in the 1980s, sold for over 400,000 tickets. Equivalent to estimated worldwide of ABS would be $1,437, and or 1,400,000. Yeah. So anyway, so it just this movie just like blew up. Now, this came out in 1980. It was a release. Obviously, it's select theaters, right? Would you think for the release in the United States, or is it?
Well, it's always delayed like that, especially movies back then here. But
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons why it blew up was because it's violent enough without being graphic. It's got enough of the adult themes that if you want in there, and I don't mean sex and betrayal and all that. I just mean classic story of here's a bad dude, that's a master in his own way, and he's eradicating the other clan. And of course, Jackie's the unknown person that has to right the wrong at the end. And the fight at the end, though, I think kind of sums up the best parts of the movie, even though I kind of popped to some earlier parts and we didn't, because you mentioned the fearless hyena technique and all that. And it kind of gets through that here. But everybody goes, oh, Jackie's so lean. He's so ripped in here. Well, yeah, he is. He's fairly young. He's got zero chest, but he's got okay arms for his body. When he meets the old master after defeating the three sword guys, this fight goes on for about 10 to 15 minutes. And again, this guy has to be good. The bad guy has to be really a master at what he's doing, because they go through all these techniques, and they don't hold anything back in terms of showing you the different techniques. Like I say, when he grabs them and he's like using the two fingers on both sides, it's like, that's cool stuff. And the comedy stuff, again, I don't really care about, but it's still fun to watch. And it's outside, right? You don't see cars in the background. You don't see power lines or anything that takes you out of it. So it's pretty simple. It's two people fighting on real grass out on the field. And there's long sequences where the camera does not cut or switch. So you're getting a really wonderfully choreographed bit. And, he's kipping up probably 5 or 10 times in the final fight at least. And, of course, his shirt comes off piece by piece, and until he's completely shirtless. And it's a really great example of what we would call, I think, what you and I would agree on, an entertaining martial arts film that's got a little something for everybody, as cliche as that sounds. But a young kid could watch this, and an older person can watch it. And even though it's 40 plus years old, you could release it today and it's still good. It's just that this kind of martial arts are not quite the thing that it used to be, because those movies stopped getting made by the mid to late 80s. And you and I have covered a lot of them, certainly not all of them. And we've tried to bounce around to other cultures and pick some out that are supposed to be good there and look at the different styles. And unless you're following a particular actor or actress like Amy Johnston or something, you may not know that. And you just go, man, I want to move for a karate film. I want to hear the whooshes. I want to see different things. I want people talk about crane versus dragon versus tiger versus whatever. That never gets old, does it?
No, it doesn't.
I want to see a modern version of something like this, where a guy goes, my tiger is not strong. I must learn crane. You can't do that. You're too old, or something like that. But they don't have them,
You saw that back in the days with David Carradine, Kung Fu. He taught the different moves, the crane, and the tiger, the different forms. So if you want to go back to that and watch that show, Kung Fu. And Verity, it is on TubiTV.com. It's just look up Fearless Hyena or Hyena.
Hyena, yeah. And it might come up with a couple different names. That's okay. But I think most of the pictures show Jackie kind of flexing a little bit with his shirt off or whatever. And then the guy's got like a silver black robe, and he's got blonde white hair. Yeah. He's the evil villain archetype. I mean, it's the same guy we've seen forever.
Just type in Jackie Chan on the search, and it's like the second roll. Yeah. Literally. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, we've gone over a lot of Jackie Chan stuff. I know you've said in the past you don't really care for the ballet stuff, the Jackie Chan ballet. You're more into like the more serious, fighting. But like
it's a style. I appreciate it and understand it. I don't hate him because of it.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying you hate him. It's just like you've seen it. It's you kind of like some of the other stuff. Like you said, I like Drunken Master. I love Fearless Hyena is one of my new favorites. He's been in. I haven't seen the new Fist of Fury or even the Bruce Lee stuff that he's in. Like, I kind of want to. I'm gonna watch it myself because I know you said you didn't really care for that, but I'm looking, dude. There's other movies on here called Dragon Fist.
Yeah.
like, uh, like favorite ones by him is City Hunter, basically, Police Story. Watch all those. The Prisoner, and just all those original older ones he has. And The Protector was another one we reviewed on here as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
Fun stuff, man. Like I said, there's so much Jack. That's the thing. Jackie Chan to me is like the what's that kid from that played Data on the Goonies? He's got that same lovable attitude. You just want to see him in more stuff, you know. So
Well,
that
he's
he
not
does.
as loud or annoying as Data.
No, no, no. I know, but it's like I just love it though. He always play. He's the good guy. He's the underdog, and I just love the fact that he's so down to earth when it comes to he does his own stunts. He's never plays the bad guy. I've never seen a Jackie Chan bad guy. Have you?
No, and for my final thoughts, kind of rounding this up a little bit, I think that's a really important point because we always talk about different movies, and we cover a lot of different fields. We don't just specialize in one thing, although I like to say we're 80s based. But one thing you brought up a while ago, I think is really reminiscent of this film is we talk about there's a lack of wholesome movies, and the thing about Jackie is as much as we have the goofy stuff in here. It's a serious fight at the end. Like I say, it goes a long time, and the guy has a special technique that he uses, and it's just his
Yep.
hands and stuff. But here's the thing: that's a good story to tell. That you go, you know what? You can't take what you have for granted. You've got to bust your ass and work really, really hard to have an opportunity to overcome things. And when you're ready, the old expression, when you're ready, when the student is ready, the master will appear. And so you get to learn something or whatever like that, and then you get to exercise this unique thing. And the pursuit is its own reward is an old expression as well. And I think when we have this final fight here, we know he's going to win, but it's not easy. And so I think it's a nice lesson for people to understand that it's like you don't just have superhuman skills like John Wick where you can miss 5 gazillion bullets and everything goes on, and it just here he pays a price. You physically see it. You see him get worn down and beat up at the end, but he overcomes. And we've said that before with Chuck Norris films, with the big kick at the end. It all leads up to that. And most of these other films like that, it's about overcoming adversity for the right reasons and putting in effort and time and paying a price to do something and to lose whatever foolishness you may have or arrogance or conceit or whatever young person's description you want to have. And it's not an insult to anybody, but it's an old story that never gets old. That's the beauty of it.
And the crazy about this is there's 2 different versions of Jackie Chan. There's Jackie Chan with Sammo Hung, and then there's Jackie Chan before Sammo Hung.
Yes.
And you're like, well, what's the difference? And that you can tell in the storytelling, the acting a little bit. You're still getting the same Jackie Chan, kind of a little silly, but I feel as he went to the Sammo Hung, it got more to the point where he played the cool, collect, con guy, especially, and then Sammo Hung was the annoying guy,
Yeah, he was the straight, and Sammo could be the goof.
Yeah. So, he said, I like that, I said that he's versatile. He can do that stuff. But I forgot what we were watching. It was one of the, it was the one that, remember he's fighting on the Ferris wheel. He climbed the Ferris wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fight like that. I guess I just love it when it just he does the climbing stuff. There was another movie we watched. I think it might have been Drunken Master. He climbed that building, that wall by himself.
Yep.
And he did it himself. You didn't see him with a rope and stuff. He did it himself.
Yeah. Take my money. I want to see people do that and get it on film. I do.
Well, exactly. So that's one of the reasons why I've always liked Jackie Chan. Like their family movies. There's nothing raunchy or anything. It's just a guy basically being the good guy. He's the underdog going against the corrupt criminals. They're usually like the joke. The criminals are always like the worst criminals, like the bad. It's like, oh, this is bad criminals, but
I do have one problem I've got to ask you about though with this film. It's this. So I'm hyping it up. I'm telling everybody to go watch it because it is fun. It is entertaining. You may, of course, because there is a lot of different action scenes, you're probably going to like some more than others. And I'm not saying anything surprising. Yeah. Spoiler alert at the ending. Of course he wins, right? But with this big 10, 15-minute fight at the end, which is great, as much as I told you how it's serious and this and that, I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, he wins by, they're flippity-floppity around or like that, and the bad dude ends up with his back towards him, but on his hands like a handstand, so he sticks his knee in it like he's getting ready to do the walls of Jericho.
Right.
But then it's a double elbow shot to the dick that kills him. I mean,
Well,
it kind of took the kind of seriousness out of it for me, but that's what I mean. It's like
hey, there's
I
a,
know there's comedy, but you got this great fight, and then the unicorn of the dick kills you.
hey,
I don't know. Just saying.
I'll just say this: there's no joke about getting punched in the dick. You can die from that bleeding, internal bleeding, man. It's like,
I understand that, but I was kind of shocked that this was the way
well,
it ended. I was like,
I
really?
mean, does it really take you out when he's going to laugh and they're crying? He's like, like like that really like it's like wow, that wasn't.
This is an elbow into the dick, not a punch. And I'm like, really? Really? This is like the scene in the movie where you slice a guy in
Well,
half right through your skull with a
this
sword.
is we've talked about what was it Kung Fu Power or what was it Kung Pao and or whatever it was that
Way of
remember that
this.
yeah whatever that was it's the Stephen Chow one.
Hmm.
This is the more serious version.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah.
Yeah,
I
the other
mean,
one Stephen Chow is more like if you went Simple Jack.
all
So
right. Any other final thoughts?
final thoughts is that it's a very enjoyable movie. It's another movie I'll be looking at Amazon to see if I can buy a copy of this. I need it just it's just like you said, these are few and far between movies. I'm glad that Tubi actually has a lot of martial arts stuff because a lot of stuff is just lost to time. They maybe wanted the VHS or something. They didn't make it the DVD. They just want that
Eventually there'll be a
popular.
transfer if there hasn't been, and
Yeah,
it just depends on who's got the rights, because obviously
yeah,
there's a Golden Harvest and the other company that's really big over there. You usually fall into one of those two. Things are different now, but again, for 45 years ago, this is a movie that's still entertaining to watch. And like if it came out in the theater, not that I would go to see it, but it'd be like, hey, that's kind of cool to see, and I can see where
yeah.
seeing this on the big screen outside and all that, it'd be kind of fun, right?
Yeah, I like Jackie Chan's like of his action comedy stuff. I love the police story stuff. We talked about that. Project A was the other one.
Yep.
Uh, I would love to see those in a theater, man. I'd go see it, but I mean, like The Foreigner, I had no care for it because it didn't seem like a number Jackie Chan movie. It just seemed like, okay, it's just a serious. I know he's getting older. He can't really do as many moves as he used to, but like to
Yeah.
me, that's kind of sad because it's like he's a physical actor.
Yes.
And you can't
Yes.
yeah, and once you can't do the physical act anymore, you're kind of like just there for like Rush Hour. I mean, imagine if they made Rush Hour today, like Jackie Chan's like in his 60s. I don't think he could even do as much. Then again, we have Sting wrestling in AEW, so anything's possible.
Well, injury catches up with everybody, and he's definitely
Yeah,
had a share. But I'll say
yeah,
this: there is talk about a Rush Hour 4.
yeah.
There is demand for that. I think, even though Jackie won't do it, I think it's almost time for him to play, because all you got to do is have him have the one big final fight at the end.
Well,
I would like to see Jackie as either the mentor to somebody,
exactly.
but like turn on the guy and be the evil dude at the end with the long flowing white beard. Because if you put that on him early and you don't make it like he's evil and then he is at the end, boy, what a twist that would be. And that's certainly not original at all. But it's just one of those things. You need a good bad guy, and it would be a nice way to give the rub to somebody younger.
It,
And I just don't know who's out
crazy.
there, and I'm sure there's somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's definitely. There's never been another Jackie Chan, but it doesn't mean that people can continue to do stuff that he did if they're able to do it. If they can't, though, I don't want to let anybody try to attempt it and do horribly, because last we want is so we never wanted a Bruce Lee impersonator. We don't want a
Right.
Jackie Chan impersonator. So, but man, I'm trying to think. There's a kid, the kid from the Raid, or
Mhm.
he's also Will Assassins. He's doing some stuff, but I'm thinking like, who is really out there that's really going doing martial arts stuff? A lot of them are aging up.
Well, Amy Johnston, Scott Adkins comes to
Sure,
mind.
sure. Scott Adkins is getting a little older too now.
He's not young, yeah, but
Yeah, but I mean, Drew. I mean, I would
I
love
know.
to see another Police Story reboot, or remake, but I just would be afraid if Hollywood touched it, it would just be horrible.
It
You
would.
wouldn't get the Michelle Yeoh, Cynthia Rothrock. Imagine they did like Enter the Ninja, and just did it today. Like I said,
Stop.
Hong Kong cinema was great because for what it was back then, 70s and the 80s, even
Mhm.
the 90s. They still there's a lot of stuff. There's still some like fantasy stuff, but it's like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I'm not into that stuff. I'm glad for the people who are, but I like this. I love the choreography fighting. You know,
I don't like that's called that's the wires that you see with the
yeah,
people
yeah.
flying stuff. I don't like that either.
Well, that's more ballet than this is. We always call it Jackie Chan ballet because it's a dance. Because he,
Yeah.
you know. But the thing is though with Jackie Chan, so is there's no wire. There's no wires, and they're actually using real weapons. You know, and it's real stunts. I forget which one it was. It was him and Michelle Yeoh, and he had to jump. They had she had to take a dirt bike and she had to jump and land onto a moving train.
Mm-hmm.
And like the first time we didn't do it, almost didn't make it, and the second time it's like, oh. So like I said, I love it when people actually do their own stunts.
Yeah.
So
I do too. And again, he's doing this way before Tom Cruise, and we give Tom Cruise all the credit in the world, right?
Exactly, because Tom Cruise got it. He's like, here's this guy Jackie Chan doing this over here. People like that there. Now I want the outtakes. I want the for all the Mission Possibles. I don't think there probably is some goof stuff, but I mean, I want to see some of the stunts. You know, of course. I mean, because we see like the new one is supposed to be like that's the thing with Tom Cruise. He gets it. The more you do another movie, you have to outdo the last stunt. So I'm really curious what he's going to do for this next one. They showed him like skydiving out of a plane, you know, and he was, you know, we saw that in clip. You know, he was thinking all the fans. He was doing a new stunt. We saw a ramp going up a cliff. But I'm just curious, like, because he's got number 7 and number 8 left, and then the character's done. He's done with the movie. So I'm said it's going to be sad. I mean, Jackie Chan is old, getting up in age. He can't do as much as he can do. Tom Cruise is ending that. Wow. What do we have left? Cars doing flips.
We don't.
Fast and Furious. Yeah, no.
We don't.
No, we don't have anything really.
We don't.
No.
That's why we cover these old films.
and I said that's why I want some of these more. I mean, whether it's women or men, get these stunt people, put them in front of the camera, let them do their stunts.
Yeah, we've been pretty positive about, say, like Amy Johnson and some of the stuff that she's been into, like the Bloodsport or those types of almost female versions of it or whatever.
Yeah.
And we've done a few others from, you know, other countries with other actors and actresses that may not be big in the American scene, but they were, you know, a decent film over there. So we do plan on, of course, continuing doing a lot of action stuff here based on Tuesday nights, and we'd gotten away from it because we would really enjoy Tulsa King, but it's the same thing. Stallone did a lot of his own stunts. We respect him a hell of a lot more for it, so now he doesn't have to do too much, and we still love him. And I think it's part about creating your brand and what you are. So Jackie's always been very smart about it in his movies. As much as I say, oh, my taste would run towards the more serious versus the comedy, but I still get it, and it is enjoyable to watch. In this movie, Fearless Hyena, you definitely get it. Check it out on Tubi TV. It's free there with ads, and it may be on YouTube for free as well, depending on your ad blocker and or where you're at. And the link's posted in chat there. So I want to take a special moment here, and of course, not just thanking the people that spent a little time with us tonight here in the stream, Ed as usual, and Verity and a few others, but also there's a lot of Twitter stuff going back and forth with Dark Shadows because of the actress in there who also happened to be in a movie that we covered Sunday night with Crawl, and it was just one of those weird convergences of, oh, that's right, that she was in this too, and I didn't know it. And so it was nice of her to kind of tweet back a few times about some stuff. She seemed like a really nice lady about it.
Very, very nice lady. I conversed with her probably way too long than I should have with anybody. I don't know.
No, but when you strike when the iron's hot, sort of thing. But
exactly.
That's what we like to do here on the Xtreme Movie Show.
And for those, if you haven't checked out our review of Crawl, go check it out. And if you have the DV, listen to the commentary. Lisette said, "Hey, the commentary is hilarious. Check it out. It's something you don't want to miss. So if you get the DVD, get the DVD commentary."
And I think Crawl was also on Tubi.
I'm not sure. Well.
But the print I saw was fabulous, and the score is great, and that's a fun 80s fantasy film that actually flopped. So a lot of interesting stuff coming up here, too. And you know what? I have zero idea what we're going to be doing next week, but we're going to figure that out in a few days, and then it'll be fun talking about whatever that may be. Maybe martial arts, maybe something else, but I don't know. And damn it, that's what makes the show extreme. So thanks for showing up, RDB, and everybody else in chat. Have a good night. As always, like I just said, stay extreme.
Later, guys.